Hi everybody, welcome to today's webinar. My name is Kelly Peters and hopefully you're here to listen to me talk about the brave new online world. So firstly, I just want to double check that you can all hear me okay. So if you could just use your chat box and type in yes, that you can hear me, that'll be fabulous. It's always good to get a little bit of engagement and feedback. Yay, people can hear me. I typically don't have a challenge, but hey, you never know. I'll also just need to make you aware that working from home, I do have a dog. He may decide that he wants to shout and scream at any walking dog past. So you may hear Loki. So without any further ado, I'm going to kick on into the session. Please do ask any questions at the end. I'll happily answer. Then we have about 15 minutes at the end of the session. So for those of you that are new to my type of webinars, I'm Kelly Peters. I'm a co-founder of Databasix, and I have approximately 20 years experience working in information governance, both in the public and the private sector. And I'm a little bit excited about data protection and privacy. For some of you who know me, there might be a little bit of an underestimate of just how excited I get about data. And hopefully you'll get that today. So I would hope that you would agree with me that in the last 4 weeks, definitely in the last 4 weeks, there has been an absolute explosion of digital tools that we are now using to engage with our teams, work with our customers, possibly talk to our trustees and those that are fundraising on our behalf at such a pace that we probably have never predicted the increase of digital transformation. So this pandemic has forced us to make some very quick decisions about tools that we use in an everyday business or charity setting. So had we not moved fast, we would have been left behind the curve and potentially not been able to function. So what I want to talk to you today about is how we make sure that the choices that you have made are ones that fit your business, that you can be transparent about with your customers and your staff, and that you are very comfortable meet the data protection requirements from a perspective of processing data, keeping it secure, and being transparent. So some of you may use one or two or even more of these products. I'd be interested to know just how many of you have been on a Zoom call in the last 4 weeks. I probably can't even count the number of times I've been on a Zoom conference. Sometimes I feel like I'm literally on them back to back, and I probably do more video conferencing now than I've ever done in my entire 20 years. But where we're not using Zoom, you may have been introduced to Google Hangouts. You may have been invited to a Microsoft Teams session. You may have been invited to connect via the House Party app. You've obviously connected today with me via Click Meeting, but it's not just the communication tools. There's also been an increase in the digital transformation, both from an accounting perspective, but also from a HR perspective. There have been a number of very quick decisions, and I think they're great, to move to products such as Breathe and Bright HR. But what we need to make sure is that when we've made those decisions, that we have assisted, or we've certainly determined what the risks are, and we're happy with what those risks are, and that we have the appropriate contingencies in place. Please let me know if there are any other types of online tools that you may have seen or may have engaged with. I have to say I'm quite looking forward to actually being in the same room as someone and being able to shake their hand and saying, hi, welcome to seeing you. So there should be no surprise that before I kick into the main body of this, I really just want to remind everybody about the GDPR and the elements I'm going to cover today. So if you've attempted to come to some of my sessions before, you'll know that I like to talk about what is the GDPR basic rule. So essentially condensed an entire regulation down to one slide. What I'm going to focus on today is, whilst there are 8 core principles, what I want to talk to you about is the concept of being transparent, both you being transparent and the software vendor that you are going to use being transparent with you about how they use the information on you and your clients. I want to talk to you about the importance of keeping data secure and what we need to ensure is in place if we are going to use new online tools. So keep data safe and secure. I very much want to talk to you about retention, because I think it's important that we know what we're going to be storing in different systems and for how long. And then, without thinking about it too much, it's that concept of accountability. It's how can you reassure yourself throughout the business that you're all using the tools appropriately and that you're not putting yourself at any type of risk. So there are a number of questions I think you should be asking yourself, and I'm going to tell you how you can find the answers and what to do if you can't find them. So there are 5 key questions that I want you to take away from today and to consider with the new tools that you have adopted. You may well want to review existing ones, but this is very much about if you've adopted Zoom or House Party, or some are using more sophisticated tools such as Cisco. I want you to be reassured that you can answer these questions appropriately. So the first question I want you to really think about is what personal data is the online tool, so Microsoft Teams, Zoom, Breathe, Bright HR, are they collecting about you as the client? So what are you having to do to set these systems up? What information are they asking of you? And what information do they require of your clients, potential clients, staff, and potentially, who knows, suppliers? So you need to put yourself both in what they want from you and what they may have on other people that engage with you. So the first place that we should always check is their privacy policy. Their privacy policy has to be on their website and should be easy enough for you to find. Typically, it's at the bottom of the page in the banner. If not, you'll find it in the About Us section. So ask yourself, in that privacy policy, where it says, what data do we collect on you? Are they simply saying it will be location information? So will they know where you are located, as well as all of your, like I said, clients, staff? And why do they need that information? How are they going to use that data? Are they going to be using things such as email address or name? Or could they be using things such as your voice recording or video from the conferencing that you're holding? I read an article this week. Some of you may have seen that Regina, co-founder of Databasix, published something on LinkedIn that talked about Zoom indicating that they can use video recording of webinars as part of their advertising campaign. Now, if they've said that and you've accepted that, then great, you're very aware of that. But have you also told the people that are attending that meeting this is how their information could be used? If you'd signed up to House Party were clear about how they would then have access to your contact details and to your photos, for example. And again, by downloading the app and using it, you are accepting that use of that data. So be very clear. What are they collecting on you? What will they have on your clients and staff? And are they storing any special category of information? Now, the HMRC 2 years ago was using voice recognition as a way of being able to password as your password to access business records on you and your own personal tax accounts. They were told by the Information Commissioner they didn't have permission to use voice recognition, and they had to delete the files. So you want to be clear that if you're using voice, which is a personal data, or the tool is using voice, what are they using it for, other than to listen and convey a conversation over the webinar. If you are storing personal data that is sensitive, that what may be medical records, it may be information about grievances, more so from a HR perspective, again, it's being clear with your clients that they tell their staff what information the online tool is going to store on them. It's not to say you can't do it, it's about being transparent. So everybody, one of the fundamental rights of the data protection regulation is that we have the right to be informed about the information that is being collected on us, and we have the right to know who else has access to that. So it's all about information rights and then translating that into your own privacy notices to demonstrate your accountability. So the next question you really want to be asking yourself, and it's quite a key one, is does the software supplier share or sell your personal data about you or your clients or your staff to any third parties? Now, there may be genuine reasons why information is shared with third parties. It may be that part of their product is being, they develop it, but it's hosted on a cloud infrastructure such as Amazon Web Services. Do they have access to any of your information or your clients? Does the tool require you to sign into it via a different mechanism, like a social media channel? So you will notice that for some of your tools, they will say, oh, you can sign in via a social media channel. Obviously, information is being stored both in the social media channel as well as that application. One of the things that ClickMeeting allows me to do is it allows me to take a copy of the webinar and upload it into our YouTube channel. So it's about being clear that information will be, the video content will be shared with YouTube, but not the contents of people's email addresses that have signed up for today, for example. But what you want to be cautious of is in the privacy notice under how do we share your information? Does it talk about selling it or using it for behavior activities in terms of advertising, how you interact, how you use the tool, why you use the tool, that's going to then be used for specific online marketing? So again, look in the privacy policy, see if it does that, because that's where it should tell you that information. And hopefully, if they are talking about using information from an advertising perspective, they have sought consent in the first instance. The next question, unsurprisingly, I always talk about, well, yes, it's in the cloud, but where in the world physically is the box where your information and your client's information and that of your staff being stored? And that's quite an important question when it comes to data protection, because the General Data Protection Regulation says that there can be a free movement of information across the European member states, which the UK currently continues to be a member of until next year. However, if information is transferred outside or stored outside of the European Union, somewhere such as, say, the United States, you have a responsibility to check that that software supplier can demonstrate compliance with European data protection. Now, for example, if you have an online system such as an accounting package, most of the accounting packages like Xero, QuickBooks, for example, their servers are based in the US. When you look in the privacy policy where it says, where do we store your information? It should stipulate that their servers are stored in the United States. It should tell you how they respect data protection laws for those that are in the European Union. Typically, they will say they have signed up to the European Union US Privacy Shield, which essentially is a framework that allows US vendors to demonstrate and self-certify their compliance with European data protection law. What they should also stipulate is how they keep your data safe and secure in terms of backups, password protection, training of their staff, how they make sure that the systems are constantly kept up to date, and how they detect any potential intrusions. So please do scroll down. It's typically near the end of a privacy policy. If it's a layered privacy policy, you may be able to click the link that says where's data stored, and it will take you directly to that section. But again, knowing this allows you to tell people on the call. So Click Meeting is a US-based system. On the invitations, I have a little notice that says to everybody, please be aware that Click Meeting is a US-based software tool. Your data is stored there, and it will only be used for the purposes of administering the webinar. That then needs to be translated into your privacy notices, whether they are staff privacy notices or the web privacy notice that says, we use these tools for webinars. We use these tools for online communication. We use these tools for HR, and that you're then explaining how secure they are and where they're stored. So that's your responsibility. So you're being transparent to the people that are going to engage with you. So we've talked about what personal data are you collecting? Is it being shared or sold? You know, is it, where in the world is it stored? And that's quite a lot of information already. But again, it's all in the privacy policy, as is how long do they keep the information? And it's quite an important one, because all of you, apart from having a privacy policy, you should have retention schedules that set out the different time periods that you are going to be holding data for. So if you're using an online tool, whether it's a video conferencing tool or it's an accountancy package, or it's a way of being able to get survey responses from individuals, how long do they keep your information? You as the account holder, how long are they going to retain the information about your clients, and how can they support you with that retention period? So if, for example, you only keep, you're holding like online training, for example, and you're using a platform such as Click Meeting, you may say that you will only keep delegates' information for up to 2 years after they've last attended an online training course with you. If you then reach that 2-year period, you now need to delete their information from the system. How does that software supplier support you with that retention period and then the subsequent removal of that data from that system? Now, they should state how long we keep your data. Most privacy policies will state for as long as we see or feel is necessary. And I would hope that that is supported by an organisation retention schedule. So look on the privacy policy. How long does it say it stores the different types of information? Because you can't say we store everything for 10 years, because I would challenge you on the reasonableness of that for all data. I would ask you that if it's not in there and you're not sure what they're doing with your information, they may have a chat box on their website, or they may have, and they definitely should have, an email address in their privacy policy. Contact the GDPR lead or the data protection officer and ask them that question. How do you support me with maintaining good retention schedules? How long do you store my information as an account holder? And how long do you keep it? What if I decide to no longer be an account holder? And then finally, what you want to be thinking about, is there a difference between a free version of an application, which people get super excited about, and why not, you know, because you're getting something for free, versus a paid option? So we typically will go with free because, like, we might not have a lot of money. We might be testing products out to see what's their usability for you. But please, 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 can you read the privacy policy and determine what they are getting from you for that free service? Can they monetize your contact details? Can they get money from, or can they get access to your photos and use your photos for marketing or advertising purposes? Whether it be you're downloading an app onto your phone or you're downloading an application onto your computer. Always try and work out why it's free and how they are getting something from you. They may attach it with a 14-day free trial, which means that, you know, you'll have to pay for it after 14 days and you have to give finance details to be able to get access to the free demo. But do check. It is quite important. There have been a number of products out there that say they can make money from your interactions on, you know, by placing a cookie onto your computer. They know what you're accessing, how you're accessing it, where you go, what different sites you go to, and they will sell that to real-time bidders, so that the next time you log into your Facebook account, you're suddenly getting bombarded with adverts for umbrellas or for cat food or for, you know, some very unique piece of jewelry because of your previous activity. So do see if they describe the difference between paid and free. Ask the questions about, is there a different level of security for the free version to the paid version? So you do get more level of security, more levels of control with the paid version, and how much difference is there? And again, if the privacy policy is vague or the terms and conditions are vague about that, do send an email to the data protection officer or ask the chat box. They should be able to very quickly respond to that question. And I would always check if you think that they're not clear about the tool itself, should you be using it? If it's free and they haven't described how they're using your information, from a data protection perspective, think about, does this make sense for me to be using this product? You know, especially if they're going to be getting access to information that may be commercially sensitive to you. Some people are not worried. Some people are quite happy to have the free access, but also be mindful of your clients and what information you may be putting into that free tool on behalf of your clients, prospects, learners that are coming to events such as this. So there are 5 things to consider. The really cool thing about all of that is that you should be able to find all that information in their privacy policy. If they don't, you know, feel free to pass them our way, you know, happily write them a privacy policy that is compliant. So the next thing, and this kind of leads quite nicely on from the free version versus the paid version, is please don't prioritize convenience over security. Just because something's easy to install doesn't necessarily mean it is the best product for you from a data protection perspective. So I want you to be mindful of the following kind of security from a video conferencing perspective, because that's the thing I've seen the biggest explosion of in the last 4 weeks. And what I've taken from the National Cybersecurity Centre is a number of things or points that they feel that you should consider. I will make sure that you will get a copy of this webinar so you can see the slide, so you don't have to furiously write these down. You will get access to this information. So really make sure, and it's quite a key point, that where you are downloading or someone is telling you to join our meeting, we want you to use this tool, that where you are downloading it from is from a trusted source. So you've gone to a website, you're confident that you are downloading the application from a website that looks genuine. Please don't open any emails with a kind of some of them may have a link in that says, please click here to download. I would always go to the website and check out the application before I download it, rather than downloading information directly from a link within an email. Check online to understand whether the app or the software system is right for you. Just because everyone else is using a particular software product doesn't mean you have to use it. Also be mindful, if you are in a regulated industry, whether or not they've given out any strict guidance about whether you can and cannot use a system. we've got a number of clients where we can only use Skype for Business. They will not accept anything else as a means of communication. We've got other clients that will say our best means of communicating, and we want you to manage it all via Microsoft Teams. So be mindful of your customers and what security restrictions they have in place about what tools you can and cannot use. Can you opt out of sharing information with third parties? Can your individuals that are joining or loading their data onto the system, do they have the option to opt out as well? Goes without saying, have a strong password. You know, always test the service before you are using it. Do you know how to mute it? I saw something quite entertaining on social media the other week where someone, I think, took their phone into the bathroom while they were still on a conference call and they hadn't muted it. I mean, no one needs to hear someone going to the bathroom whilst they're on a conference call. So be mindful that, can you mute the or turn off the video? Do you know how to do that? Do you know how to make calls private? So only set out a link to trusted individuals. I know that there was a lot of things called Zoom bombing recently, where people could just jump onto a call who you hadn't invited. So think about introducing waiting rooms. Only allow people in that you recognise that have registered for the event. And consider your surroundings. Think about having a fake backdrop behind you. We've suddenly got this amazing insight into how everyone has decorated their houses. But be mindful. Do you want people to see that, or create, a nice corporate background? Both Teams and Zoom have that functionality within it. So, what should you do? What's in your data protection toolbox that I think will be quite useful for you, based on the whistle-stop tour of what to consider when adopting online tools? So, if you've adopted a new system that is going to be processing personal data, you must update your register of processing activities. You may know it as an information asset register. Whatever system you have that lists all the types of personal data that you're processing, what you process, why you process, how you process it, and where you process it, has to be updated with the new system that you are introducing to facilitate conversations or cloud storage of personal data. Then make sure that those new systems are reflected in employee privacy notices, in information that goes out on your website, because it's important that people know where their data is being stored, especially if you've made a decision for the first time to store data outside of the European Union because you're using a US-based tool. So your privacy policy, for you to be transparent, if you remember, the first principle I talked about was transparency. You need to make sure that your privacy notice reflects that as well. If you are introducing a new system where you are potentially processing special category of information, so health information, race, things such as criminal, like the DBS checks, for example, mental health information, should you be conducting a data protection impact assessment? This is a mandatory requirement within the regulation as of the 25th of May 2018, where you are processing special categories of information. And what it's asking you to do is do a risk assessment. Make sure that your system you're using, you are confident, it's secure, it's adequate for your needs, it can support your attention, it can support all the individual rights that are set down in the regulation before you implement it. Now, admittedly, we've been fast-tracked down to this, so it might be something you do after the fact, but please, where you're doing this for special category of information, do conduct a data protection impact assessment. And always demonstrate your accountability. So if you're using a new tool, explain to your staff why you're using a new way of being able to communicate with them. Reassure them about what the checks and balances that you've put in place and why this tool is the best tool for you and for the business. Please make sure that you have things such as notices that you will send out to your customers about how you are respecting data protection. Sorry about that, you get to hear my postman. And then finally, what you need to be able to do is to be able to make sure that you can answer any questions that people ask you about how you process data. So I've asked you to do that and challenge all your suppliers. Be prepared for the same to be done in reverse. So just some simple compliance checks. They may take some time. You may not have the time at this moment because of everything else you're trying to manage in lockdown, but make sure that you do tick these off your list and you can demonstrate that. So, time now for you to ask any questions that you may have on what I've covered. So, have you updated your privacy notices? Are there any tools that you've decided that you're not going to use? Are there systems that you've been told that you can't use? So please, any questions that you have, please type them in the type box. Oh, no, I haven't come across 8x8. Is that a particular online communication tool? Sounds quite interesting. So whilst that's going on, whilst I'm getting some more information about what 8x8 is, does anyone else have any questions for me, in particular about what I've covered? Maybe what I'll do is I can have a conversation about 8x8 offline if you like, so we can make sure that you can hear me and I can hear you and stuff. So I can see that I've got some people that are typing, which is always super exciting. I always like to know feedback from anyone that's listening to the webinars. I'd be interested to know if this has been useful. Is there anything else that you felt that could have been covered in this session? And also, whilst I've got people typing, it'd be really useful to know, are there questions that you want answered for on a data protection perspective that you think would be useful for a future webinar? Okay. So I've got a question here about how would you update people about you've made changes to your privacy notices? You don't always need to notify people. I think if you've got people's email addresses of your customers, what you could do, and we probably all saw it actually in the mad rush in GDPR, before GDPR day, privacy notices were issued. What you could do, and I don't know how easy it is to do on your website, is have a little note that just comes up to say, we've updated our privacy policy. If your website is not that sophisticated, and they're not all are, I would want you to note at the bottom of the privacy notice that the date that it was updated, so you can show to people that it was updated, say the 28th of February 2020. So if you don't have the ability to send out an updated privacy notice, and you don't have a way on your website being able to direct people to say your privacy notice has been updated, definitely have a date on it that demonstrates that you have updated the content of it, and that you can, all your other systems reflect that you've done that kind of audit piece of work. So I've also had a question about Regina, who's my business partner, supplied a link on commentary about some of the challenges people are having with Zoom. What I will do is, everybody that has joined this webinar, I'll send you the link for that, which you can read. And if you have any questions, obviously do let us know. We are happy to provide insight to you. Okay, whilst I will wait for see if there are any more questions popping up, I do want to just do my little quick promo. So we do regular webinars. We're now moving them up to be every other week. So we did one about the coronavirus, what are the risks of working from home. We've done one about You've Got Mail. So we probably all got bombarded with emails recently about what everyone is doing about the coronavirus. And I talked about the difference between what is a marketing message and what is a service update. And if you can remember back when, in January, when we weren't really talking about a pandemic, I highlighted with support of Freese, the law firm in Oxford, what I believed are the data protection challenges for 2020, because there are still some that we need to face when we are through this pandemic. And then, so please feel free to join any future webinars. I'm always happy to see you and listen to the fabulous questions that you have to say. If you have questions about us and you don't think I've been able to answer them directly today, you can go to our website. We do have resources such as blogs. We have webinars published in terms of our events and lots of other funky goods and services that we can offer you, including, you can follow us on our social media channels. If anybody would like a follow-up call or conversation, please do let me know in the chat box. Obviously, there's no obligation. These are free. If you don't want to hear from me ever again or have a follow-up call, no worries. I take no offense. It is your right. If you do, cool. I always get super excited about talking about data protection with people. And then I just really want to thank you. I mean, you've given me 30 odd minutes of your time today to listen to this. The recording will be available on our website. It will also be on our YouTube channel. I will follow all of you up with an email with the link, so you know how to access it, along with the article that Regina wrote on Zoom. So if there are no other questions, I would like to say thank you. You're all awesome. I very much appreciate your support. And I will let you go. Keep safe and sane wherever you are. And I look forward to seeing you at another webinar that we host in the near future. Have a great day, everybody.